Hey everybody, so normally we talk about Digimon on this channel, but there's some really cool stuff going on with Disney's new game Lorcana, so I just wanted to make a brief video about it and give you some initial thoughts on everything we know so far. Okay, so I want to talk about something real quick. My day job is on a show called Game Nights, and I'm incredibly familiar with taking art like this and making it move. We have a whole department there that I work with that takes these 2D images and puppets them. What I can tell you about this is that as far as marketing for a main card game by a huge brand, Ravensburger is kind of showing us their budget. These are puppets, okay, made out of 2D images. They're not brand new animation or anything, so it kind of gives me some indications about how much money was spent on this marketing wise, because we think, you know, it's Disney, they're going to spend a lot of money, but let's not forget it's the Disney license on Ravensburger as far as I know. It's cool looking. I love stuff like this. We make stuff like this all the time. I think it's great, but the most famous animation company in the world is not doing something that's fully animated. They're taking 2D pieces and puppeting them. It could just be this one video that's very early that they just wanted to get out there, but I figured I'd comment on it. Okay, so we've got to look at our first card here, a first real card for this game. They chose to go with Elsa, and the play cost, which we can only assume this number in the upper left corner here, is 3. I've seen other cards, and you know they've got a varying scale. If this were Magic, I would feel, you know, kind of bad about how much some of these cards cost. But if it were Digimon, I'd feel differently about how they cost. The resource system in this game is going to be probably the biggest aspect that we don't know about yet. It could change everything. So let's move on. We've got Elsa, Snow Queen, and since we've got types down here, I'm assuming that this is kind of like Magic's version of Kama. So, you know, like Liliana of the Veil is different than Liliana Death's Majesty. This is how we're going to refer to this card as Elsa, Snow Queen. In other games, they haven't necessarily done this. They've just used the same character, and then you have to call it by its collector number or something like that because the name doesn't mean much anymore. So I think having this classification here is really cool. Then moving over to the right, we have what looks to me like Power Toughness from Magic, and that's really smart to be pulling from the Big Daddy. You're going to get a lot of Magic players with just this little Power Toughness box here. I'm assuming that's what it is. We don't know if damage is static and remains on it, or if characters heal up at the end of your turn or anything like that, like they do in Magic. But it'll be interesting to see. I've played games in the past where they try to get really cute with the attack and defense system, and it's not worth it. Just go simple. And if you go too simple, then there's no depth to the game. So I think this is really great to see. As we move down a little bit further, we see this symbol here. It could be because the color purple means something, and they're trying to take care of colorblind people. That would be my guess, but we'll have to see as we look at more cards later on. Then continuing on down the card, we've got all of her types. So Dreamborn, Hero, Queen, and Sorcerer. This is great that they're giving us this much room for types. They're giving us basically the entire length of the card for types. So there's a lot of room for synergy. But also, there are 4 types on this card. And what if this card is good? Now, if there's anything that cares about Dreamborn cards, or Hero cards, or Queen cards, or Sorcerer cards, now we have a potentially busted piece that just goes in all of those decks, and the format could be monotonous and boring. It's very cool, and probably will be fine, but it's something to be apprehensive about. Next, moving our way down, we have Freeze, and what looks like the tap symbol. And on every Magic pack, I'm pretty sure it says you cannot use the tap symbol. So they're getting kind of clever here. And it says exert chosen opposing character. Okay. So this is a Magic ability through and through. Like if we forget about the word freeze here, just forget about that. This looks like a tap symbol. Then there's this dash, and then there's an effect. Exert chosen opposing character. When you get into the nitty-gritty of a card game, these words really mean a lot. So if this were Magic, it would say, tap target creature an opponent controls. That's 6 words, and they did it in 4. Now imagine an ability in Magic that takes up, 20 words, like Animate Dead that can barely fit on a card, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the text is this small. Little stuff like this, the difference between 4 and 6 words is really going to start to add up. So that's really cool. Then we have this line here, which Magic players were used to, that separates rules text from flavor text. So I like that on this big hero card here, one of the most popular characters in their franchises right now, they have room for flavor text. Because there are some characters in other games that I've played that I'd love to see just a little bit of flavor on to enhance the game a little bit. Next up, we have a symbol here, which is very interesting to me. Okay, we're going to step aside from the Disney video for just a second to look at an old game that's retired called Android Netrunner. They had deck building restrictions that looked really similar to this to me. Right here, this says you can have 40 cards, and right here, this says how many out-of-faction pips you can have. So if we go back to Elsa, we see this one little pip here, and spoiler, later on there's going to be more cards with other pips. This isn't just one symbol. We go back to Netrunner, and these little guys right here, this one has 2 out of 5. These are out-of-faction pips. So I can have a total of 15 of these bubbles in my entire deck from a faction that I'm not a part of. So that's one possibility. Another comes from Star Wars, the card game, which I played very deeply. It was my first card game. As you see here, there's a bunch of little bubbles here. These are for what Star Wars called edge battles. It was basically a game of war. So you would place all these cards face down, one by one, until each player agreed to not place any more. Then you'd reveal them, and whoever had the most in the edge battle would win. So if you were willing to discard a Yoda and a red 5, you'd have 7 for the edge battle. But if you were willing to discard Darth Vader, Vader's tie, and Force Lightning, so you're willing to get rid of these resources, you'd have 8 bubbles for the edge battle. So then you would get to strike first. Now another version of this is in Doomtown. So in Doomtown, all the cards have these card numbers and symbols, and they can be used for a bunch of different things like poker hands or cheating, and this was a really weird game, and a lot of people love it, but it's very complicated. But this is just another example of these weird symbols could mean something totally different. Somebody on Twitter pointed out that these could be victory points. I think that's really interesting. So let's say I destroy Elsa in battle, I would get 1 victory point. And again, to go back to Netrunner, right here, this meant 2 victory points. And if you got 5 victory points, you win the game. So these little symbols here could mean a lot of different things, and I'm pretty excited about it. Because simply reducing your opponent's life total to 0 or attacking your life points directly or whatever, it's been done before. We've got games like that. I'm not saying that they're going to specifically use any of these little magic pips for the systems that I mentioned so far, but it's just rich ground. There are a lot of ways to win games, and I'm excited to see what this one is for. All right, let's continue on. Down at the bottom, we've got some collector information and the illustrator information. There's a stamp marking that this was released at the D23 Expo, and a first edition stamp. I'm assuming that this is the set symbol. It's possible that this over here is, but I'm almost certain that this is like a color identity symbol, and then some more copyright information. But I tell you what, here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that this little stamp right here is how they control rotation. Like, everything that's part of P1 rotates all together. That's going to make it a lot more simple than just all of these sets that came out in the last year, you new player who knows everything that came out in the last year, rotate at the same time. Like, rotation should be easy. So maybe P1 rotates all together. I don't know. All right, let's continue on. All right, next up we got Captain Hook. He's a 1-cost Captain Hook Forceful Duelist, a 1/2. He's looking like a gray character or a white character, whatever the heck that means. And he's got this little symbol here. He's a Dreamborn, he's a villain, a pirate, and a captain. And he's got Challenger +2. When challenging, this character gets +2. I'm just going to start calling it attack, and you got to get used to it. It gets +2 attack. And then he's got one of these little mystery pips here. Who knows what they're for? You know what? After I make this video, I bet that somebody's going to say what these are for, and I'm going to look really stupid. But so when challenging, this character gets +2. So I'm assuming that since he's a pirate and, he's a villain, he's a ruthless captain, that must mean attacking. So when you challenge something, you're attacking it. So he's more powerful when he's attacking. Again, total guess. And then he's got one of these pips here. Who knows what it means? All right, let's keep moving on. Now we got Robin Hood, Unrivaled Archer. He's a 6-cost 4/4. He's Storyborn and a hero. A whole lot less creature types on this guy. And he's blue with this little symbol. Who knows what it means? He's got Feed the Poor, which says when you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in their hand than you, draw a card. So this will reward us for emptying our hand and kind of going a little bit aggro. Then he's got Good Shot. During your turn, this creature has Evasive, another keyword. They can challenge characters with Evasive. And then there are 2 little magical pips here. So Good Shot is giving me more clues about what this game is all about. With a mechanic like flying in Magic, we kind of look at it and think, oh, I can fly over your board easy and get to you. What it's looking like to me is that this game is all about characters on each other's boards and taking them out. And I think the evidence supports that. All right, let's keep going. Okay, next is Stitch Rockstar. He's a 6-cost 3/5. Looks like he's yellow, but it's yellow and black down here. And it's kind of confusing to me. And it has Shift 4. Says you can pay 4 asterisk, whatever that means, to play this on top of one of your Stitch characters. And it has Adoring Fans. Whenever you play a character with cost 2 or less, you may exert it to draw a card. Then he's got 3 of these little mystery pips here. So when it says on top, is that like mutating in Magic or digivolving in Digimon, where this card becomes taller and you get all the abilities? Or is it just a cheaper way, because it's a play cost of 6, to just get Stitch out? One thing that's really making me happy, though, is with a little bit more complicated of an ability like this, they're getting specific. They're staying nice and tight with the rules. I've played looser games. Even Magic when it started out was pretty loose. But these are tight computronic rules. This is going to work really well. All right, let's keep moving. Up next is Cruella de Vil, Miserable as Usual. It's a 2-cost 1/3. It's a green card. It's Storyborn and a villain. And it's got You'll Be Sorry. When this character is challenged and banished, you may return chosen character to their player's hand. And it's got one of these little mystery pips here. Okay, so we're getting more and more clues about what the game is about here. So now we've got the rule word banished. Clearly that means dies. So when this dies, you get to bounce something to your opponent's hand. That's pretty retaliatory, and I'm interested to see how the color identities of these cards emerge and what it all means. All right, moving on. Nice little animations there, Ravensburger. Just a little something to spice it up. Okay, next up is Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. It's a 9-cost, oh baby, 7/5. It's a red card with Storyborn, Villain, and Dragon. And it has Dragonfire. When you play this character, you may banish chosen opposing character. I'll tell you what, I'm really liking this templating. Okay, and when I say templating, I'm talking about how the words come together. Right here, we have 4 rules words. One right after the other, and you know exactly what it means. Banish chosen opposing character. The rules are just nice and clean so far, and I really like it. 2 of these little magical mystery pips. And you'd figure with something 9 costs that is this big and beefy, if these were victory points, there would be a whole lot more victory points. So, still not sure what it means. Maybe it produces resources. I have no idea. Interesting that they're going straight to the end card here and telling us fall of 2023 without showing us some of the other cards that were spoiled, because there was some cool stuff that came out. And now we've got Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor. He's an 8-cost 5/5. He's a Dreamborn hero with Evasive. Only characters with Evasive can challenge this character. So it seems like for a pretty heavily costed dude, you've got a 5/5 that can go around smacking characters and not get cracked back on. That feels nice and thematic for this little guy. And he's got 4 of these little magical mystery pips. So anyway, back to their strangely placed end card. Okay, well, I'm sure in the next few weeks we're going to figure out what all these little missing pieces are, like the little magical mystery pips and stuff like that. But this game is looking nice and tight so far. They've learned a lot of stuff from a lot of different games, it looks like. And there are some things that they're doing a little bit better than other games. The templating is really impressing me so far. It looks like that's a priority for their team. So maybe they're going to keep it going. As you can see behind me, we're big Disney fans at my house. We go to Disneyland every other week. Since we live in LA, we're blessed to be able to do that. And more, this game is looking like something that has a chance, you know? All right, everybody, I just want to say Digimon content is on the way. It's been a very busy summer on the other YouTube channel that I work on, but I'm excited to get back into it. There's a lot of fun cards, and that game has my heart. It's just so cute and happy. I'm excited for what the future holds. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to the content. If you love what we're doing, have a conversation with us in the comments about what you think about Disney Lorcana. This is a big deal. So I want to hear your opinions about what you think about the game. Are there clues that you have about what the little mystery pips are for? Are there card games that you've played where you're looking at something and it feels like a game that you've played in the past? Let me know. Let's talk about it. But for now, thanks everybody.